Welcome back to the 10 Adventures podcast. One of the most popular adventure holidays on earth is now the Camino de Santiago. And while many people know the name, maybe they've read a book by Paulo Coelho or seen a movie about it, there is so much more to know about the Caminos. So today we have an expert on all things Camino on the show. I'd like to welcome Miguel Reguero, founder of Rutas Meigas, a specialist Camino operator, to join us and share all the different information you want to know about the Camino. Hi, Miguel. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi. Thank you very much for inviting me. Hi from Santiago de Compostela.
So first off, the Camino just every year seems to be getting more popular, and it's popular with people who don't do walking or cycling tours at all. It's kind of popular for people that have never done an adventure holiday, as well as people that have done great adventure holidays. Why do you think the Camino has become so popular and continues to be so popular?
The Camino has become popular of many, many reasons. First of all, it's a religious route, and that makes the Camino popular as well, because it's an ancient route. It's not like this hiking new routes. It's an ancient route since now more than 1,000 years. It's very historical. The whole Camino and all the routes is very, very historical. It's known since the 9th century. That's why it's very popular. It is a religious route. That's one of the main points. It came, like you said before, in many movies. There's many literature about the Camino de Santiago. And now, I believe, since the last years, maybe the last 10, 15 years, I don't know exactly, the social media has helped as well a lot, because many, many people are doing the Camino, are knowing friends, are posting the images on Instagram, Facebook, and many, many parts. There's many, many profiles in Instagram of Caminos, of pictures, there's a lot of apps, and that's what made the explosion of the Camino in the last years. What makes the explosion as well in the, maybe we talk about since more or less 1993. 1992 was very famous in Spain because Barcelona got the Olympic Games and Seville was 500 years discovering America, the Expo of 1992. The president of Galicia in this time wanted that Galicia had something special as well. There were coming a lot of pilgrims, but not so much. And 1993, he decided to make the Xacobeo. The Xacobeo became, and it made, even the Pope came to visit the Camino de Santiago. And since then, there was the explosion of really coming a lot of pilgrims to Santiago de Compostela. In the last years, if we take the numbers, getting away from the pandemic figures in 2020, when the pandemic started, and suddenly you could walk again. At the end of the year, more or less came over 50,000 pilgrims to Santiago de Compostela. In 2021, I have it written down because if not, I forget the numbers. It was 178,000 because 2021 was the Holy Year, which means that the Holy Year is always when the 25th of July is on a Sunday. Then it's a Holy Year. As 2021 was still a bit of pandemic and many, many pilgrims from overseas could not come, like, for example, Argentina, Mexico, Colombia, Australia, New Zealand, the Pope extended the Holy Year for 2022 as well. And 2022, suddenly 438,000 pilgrims came to Santiago de Compostela. When we talk about the numbers of the pilgrims, is not the numbers of the total pilgrims who do the Camino, is the number of the pilgrims who gain the Compostela, who goes to the pilgrim's office and get the Compostela. This last year, we made again a record, and over 450,000 pilgrims came to Santiago de Compostela for the Compostela. And 2024, which is this year, we expect we will make again a record. That means year by year, the Camino is getting more popular. Like you said, not only people are coming because they love to walk. Everybody comes, families with children, older people. The wonderful part of the Camino de Santiago is very flexible. There's many places between each stage where you can stay and you don't have to walk a lot of kilometers. You can adapt the Camino for each. I always say there's one Camino for each pilgrim. We can adapt it. And most of the Caminos we do are tailor-made Caminos, because there's coming a lot of people with very old age, but they want to to walk as well and to reach Compostela. That's why it's very popular, the Camino de Santiago.
I think it's interesting you mentioned the age, because I've seen, families with kids who are, not even in school yet, 4 or 5 years old, and we've had people in their 80s do it. And it's something that appeals across such a broad demographic. And it's not just religious people. There's a lot of people that just kind of want to disconnect. They want to have some time where they're not, not in their regular life. And there's this sense of spirituality, which even for people that aren't spiritual, they kind of just want a different life. For some people, just for a week. For some people, they want to do, 4 or 5, 6 weeks on that. But what do you see in terms of people, what they're hoping to get out of their Camino?
This is very difficult to answer. That's why I always answer in my person. I did many Caminos since 2001. The first time I did my first Camino, which was from Saint Jean-Pied-de-Port to Santiago de Compostela, I was suddenly I was unemployed, and I needed to think what to do with my life. And I said, okay, I do the Camino de Santiago. I have plenty time to think about and talk to myself and think about what I do. For me, the reason of doing the Camino de Santiago is to try to find myself again. Maybe you can say a mix of spiritual or a mix of something else, no? And many people are doing the Camino de Santiago because the Camino de Santiago gives you except this part. It gives you the part where you are alone. Even if other people are walking with you, you are alone. You can think about about you. You can think about whatever. Many of them are doing it in a religious way because something happened with the family on the life, and they want to say thank you to St. James, and they want to reach Santiago de Compostela. But many other people are doing it for many other reasons. There are coming people. This year we had this year in beginning of the year in January, which is very hard to walk because of the rain, the weather, and everything. We had a family from Finland with a baby of 9 months. And he was carrying like a backpack, the baby, and they did. The family was a husband and wife, and just the baby. And one which I always tell because I found it very cute. There was a couple of Australia over 85 years old, and they wanted to do the Camino de Santiago. But they did the Camino from Sarria to Santiago, which is the French part of the Camino, like the last 15 kilometers. They did it in stages of 10 kilometers a day in an electric bike. That means very easy, but this was the only way they could do it. And they wanted as well to reach Santiago de Compostela. They did not get the Compostela, but doesn't matter, because this was not the main goal for them. The main goal was to be with other people, to enjoy the Camino, even if it's with an e-bike, even if it's only 10 kilometers. It doesn't matter. You can do it however you want. It doesn't matter. And as I told you about myself doing the Camino, the wonderful part of the Camino, and I don't know how to explain this because it's very difficult. It's something emotion. When I walk in Santiago every day and I see the cathedral, for me it's like seeing a wonderful building, historical monument. But when I walk the Camino and I enter in the main square and I see the cathedral, always there's tears falling off my eyes. The emotion you have during the Camino inside of you, this explosion when you reach and you said, I did it again. And it's so wonderful. And I don't think any other hiking routes can bring you this emotion.
I love hearing that, because that is something. Emotion comes on these trips. The longer you go, it becomes quite emotional. I want to just back up a little bit. And one thing people always seem, to not know is, what's the significance of Santiago? What's the significance of the church there? And maybe what's the history of why pilgrimages have happened for over 1,000 years to that specific point?
It's very important because the history starts that one of the apostles, St. James, when Jesus died, they split up, all of them, and went to send the words of Jesus to many parts of the world. And St. James came to Spain. In Spain, he was in Zaragoza and he was in other parts, but in Spain, he was 6 years in Santiago de Compostela. And in these 6 years in Santiago de Compostela, Galicia is very Celtic. There was the Celtic people which were not believing in the Christians, and he left again after the 6 years. He left again back to Jerusalem, and then Herodes ordered to take the head off. That's why the cross of St. James is like a sword, because with the sword they took him the head off. Two of the people, of the disciples of him, who went back to Jerusalem, Theodore and Athanasio, brought again the body back to Galicia, and then in the Galicia, Santiago de Compostela was a forest. Was a forest which called Libredon, which is the Latin word of free of owners. There was no owners, and there was a Roman cemetery, and they buried him with a Christian part in this Roman cemetery. And then after many years, they found the tomb of St. James and called the Bishop Teodomiro, who saw the rest of the body without the head on a Christian tomb inside of a Roman cemetery, and said it was the rest of St. James. They called the king Alphonse II, who was in Oviedo, and he was the first pilgrim. That's why the Camino Primitivo, who came to Santiago and decided to build a church in honor of St. James. And then the pilgrimage started in this 8th century. That's why it's very important, the history of the pilgrimage of the St. James Way.
When I talk to pilgrims, one thing they always talk about is not just the spiritual journey, but the wonderful villages and food. And a lot of them are surprised, they may not know very much about Spanish cuisine or Portuguese cuisine if they're doing one of the Portuguese routes. But can you maybe talk about what makes the foods and the wine so special on the Camino?
It's very special, yes, because exactly the Camino, Spain is wonderful. On all parts of Spain, you can eat and drink very, very good. But the north part of Spain, for example, you cross the Camino Frances. That means you will cross Pamplona where you have Chacolí wine, or where you have this wonderful pinchos at the bars. You will cross La Rioja with the wineries, where you see all the grapes of the wineries. You will cross many places, or when you do the Camino del Norte, San Sebastián, Bilbao, Chacolí, Pinchos, the north path on the coast, where you have a lot of fish. We have a lot of beef, a lot of vegetables. That makes the Camino as well very, very nice. The gastronomic part of the Camino, and it's still not so expensive to eat in Spain, even in Portugal. And that's as well one important point, that you can mix the people who are not doing the Camino in a religious way or in a spiritual way. They can do the Camino on a hiking gastronomic way, because in every little place you will have something different, something local. Like, for example, when you enter in the last part of Galicia and you be in the Camino Frances and you are in Melide, is very famous for the octopus, or you cross Arzúa, is very famous of the cheese, or you be on the Camino Primitivo and you enter in Galicia, and Fonsagrada is very, very very good of the different kind of how you say it, embutidos, different kind of meat, Asturias, the cider is very important. There's so many places, so many different things that makes as well a special part of the Camino that you can mix it with the gastronomic and the culture and the wine all together.
And actually, we have got a lot of guests that are doing Caminos. Exactly, they look at this as almost like a fitness vacation. Only they can eat all this great food, and as you said, it's incredibly high quality food and wine for a very good price. Like it is one of the places, if you want to eat fresh, incredibly made food every day, going to Spain or Portugal, and especially on the Caminos, it's just such a great way to have this, a vacation that all your senses, your taste buds, your heart gets moving, you're getting all the fresh air. It's just so special.
And one special thing is a part of the food, the hiking, the condition, the nature, the culture, is that you will meet other people of other countries, and you will make friends in hours. And suddenly, walking a couple of hours with somebody, you maybe tell him or they tell you more than you told your best friend in 20 years. It makes you something special, so open, and you that in trust with everybody, that makes special as well the Camino. That's why more than 195 people of different countries came last year to do the Camino de Santiago. Even if it's only one from Zimbabwe, but he came. One from Zimbabwe, or maybe one of Seychelles, or one from Iraq or Iran, or from Afghanistan, but they came. And that makes special as well the Camino de Santiago. No wars, no fights. People of many different countries and other religions are walking together, and everything is wonderful on the Camino. That is something special, because I always tell it, the Camino de Santiago is a personal transformation. I always say a sentence in Spanish, but let's see if I translate it in English, if it's okay. Don't come to ask something from the Camino. The Camino will give you whatever you need, like the food, like the friendship, like the overnights, like the pain, like the help of other people. You will get everything. It's wonderful what you get in a couple of days walking or weeks.
I love that. Right. When I first heard of the Camino, it was reading Paulo Coelho's book, 25 years ago, 30 years ago. And at that point, I didn't realize there were multiple different routes. I thought there was just one. And as time's gone on, I've learned there's a variety of different routes. And this is often a question we get at 10 Adventures. Oh, I want to do the Camino. And when we go, which one do you want? They're surprised. And I'd like to take some time, and maybe you can just talk about each of the different routes and give a little overview and what makes that route special. And I thought we'd start with the Camino Frances, which is probably the most famous one. Can you talk about that, also known as the French Way?
The Camino Frances is one of the most famous, yes. First of all, because as it is a pilgrimage route, and people from a lot of parts of Europe came to visit the tomb of St. James in the Middle Age, the border with Spain and France are the Pyrenees. And from France, they came from Germany, Switzerland, Austria, and other parts. But to enter in Spain, they had to enter crossing the Pyrenees, and that's why the Camino Frances gained the most importance and knowing of the people. That made as well that people like Paulo Coelho, Shirley MacLaine, Martin Sheen, Harpe Kerkeling, many, I don't know how it is called, the writer from South Korea, they wrote books or made movies about the Camino Frances. Nobody made a movie about the Camino Primitivo or about the Camino del Norte. That's why it's the important of the Camino Frances. The Camino Frances is very important, wonderful place to walk, because it's crossed the Pyrenees from France, enters in Spain in Roncesvalles, which is Navarra, crosses to La Rioja, enters in Castilla-León, and then in Galicia. That means you will cross the complete part of Spain, and the complete different kind of gastronomy, different culture, and even different language, because some parts of Navarra even if it's not the Basque country, they speak Basque. And in most parts of Galicia, people are speaking Gallego. That means you will even know the different languages which we have in Spain with a different culture. That's the Camino Frances, very important. The Camino Portuguese, which starts, normally the Camino, you can say the Camino starts wherever you want. It can start at your main door. Even if you are in Canada, you can walk till you cannot walk anymore, because then you have a seat and you take a boat and then you carry on walking. But because I met a pilgrim a couple of years ago, he did the Camino during 6 months because he started walking from Moscow. From Russia. And he started. It took him 6 months to reach Santiago de Compostela. That's why the Camino. But the Camino Portuguese, as we know it, and as most of the people know it, starts in Porto. But you can start as well at Lisbon or in Coimbra or even a bit further. The Camino in general, now talking of all the Caminos, is wonderful and perfect marked. That means you will not get lost. That's very important, because that's a question who a lot of people are making, because I don't know Spain. It's the first time I come. Do I get lost? No. The Camino Portuguese starts, if we start in Porto. You have the way of doing the central way, where you're going in the nature, or a bit softer, the coastal way, which is just along the coast till you have to take in Caminha the ferry and crossing the Minho River, which makes the natural border between Portugal and Spain, and you cross with the ferry till you reach A Passage, A Guarda, and then you carry on Bayona and Vigo. Importance of the Camino Portuguese, of course, the Portuguese cuisine, the wonderful part of the Atlantic Ocean, where you can say, okay, now I did a wonderful relaxed walk. I have time in the afternoon to take a bath or to enjoy the beach. That's perfect. When you enter in Galicia, everything which was perfect goes away, because Galicia is up and down, it's very hilly, and suddenly you came from a wonderful beach walk, and you have to climb the mountains and go up and down again. The Camino Inglés, which starts in Ferrol, is a very short Camino, about 115 kilometers, starts in Ferrol. It's called Camino Inglés, or English Way, because not only the English, as well Scandinavia, but mostly the British ones, they came by boat to Ferrol, and from there they walked to Santiago de Compostela. And this one you can do in a shorter way from A Coruña. And if you start a part of your walk in England and stamp in England, even if you did not do the last 100 kilometers in Galicia, you still gain the Compostela, but then you have to start in England. Then you have the Camino Primitivo, which is called Primitivo because it was the first Camino, because like I told before, Alphonse II, King of Oviedo, came to visit, invited by the Bishop Teodomiro, the tomb of St. James, and he decided to build a church, the first church in Santiago de Compostela. He came from Oviedo doing the Camino till Santiago, and that's why it's called Camino Primitivo. There is wonderful. It's one of my favorite Caminos, because it's not massive. It's a little, not a lot of pilgrims, and it's wonderful mountain of Asturias. Very, very hilly, very green, a lot of cows, horses, nature. This is wonderful as well. If we carry on talking, we have the Camino de Invierno. The Camino de Invierno starts in Ponferrada. In Ponferrada, you are coming from the Camino Frances, and in Ponferrada, suddenly you see two different marks. One is saying, carry on walking the Camino Frances, or go to the Camino de Invierno. The Camino de Invierno is a Camino, it's called Winter Camino, but it's not because you only can walk it in the winter. It's called like this because in the Middle Age, when people came doing the Camino Frances and didn't have the boots like we have now, or the jackets and everything, it was very cold. Instead of going up on the highest point of Galicia on the Camino, which is Ocebreiro, and it was very snowy, they went down to El Bierzo, where las Médulas is, and entered Galicia on the south, which is La Ribeira Sacra, and there was cold, but it was not snow. And then they reached Santiago from the south part of Galicia. That's why it's called the winter way. But many people are doing it as well in summer and spring. Nearly nobody is doing it in the winter because it's very cold and it's very lonely. It's a nice Camino of the views, but it's a lot of asphalt, and that's it's not nice if you do the Camino. Then you have the Camino Via de la Plata. The Via de la Plata, it's a very hard Camino, and I don't know many people or pilgrims who did it. I did not do it, not even the part in Galicia. It's a Camino which it's a mix between Camino Mozárabe, where you can start in Granada, or Camino Via de la Plata, where you start in Seville. It's over 1,000 kilometers, and it's very, very long distance to walk. Not a lot of services, very hard. It is a Camino. Most of the people who do this Camino are bikers, because they can do distance like 80, 90 kilometers even if there is nothing to stop. No, but walkers is very, very hard. Then you have another nice Camino, which is the Camino del Norte, which enters from France into Spain in Hendaya, which is the border between Spain and the Basque country and the French part, which is Hendaya, and crosses and starts in Spain in Irún. From there it goes to San Sebastian, wonderful city. San Sebastian is a wonderful city with a beautiful old town, a beautiful city with a wonderful beach. You can go up the Monte Geldo, you can do pinchos, you can visit the sculptures of Chillida, which are iron sculptures. They're called the wind combs of the Bay of Donosti. You can go to the Museum of Chillida, which is in Hernani. It's just a couple of kilometers away from San Sebastian. You can take a ferry and you can go through the coast with the boat. I love this Camino. I love the part from San Sebastian to Bilbao. I did it, the last time I did it was 2 years ago. I did it with my dog. It's very hard. It's a lot of mountain. Not a lot of people doing this Camino. That's why there's always, you have to find as well, what do you want to see and what do you want to find at the Camino? And every Camino will give you something different. Then one of my favorite parts as well, and in every year and more people are doing it, is not finishing Santiago, finishing in Finisterre, which is the end of the world of the Romans, or in Muxía even. This is a wonderful part of the Camino because it's pure Galician nature, and then suddenly when you're up of the hill and you go down from Monte Chalas, you see suddenly the Atlantic Ocean, and you say, oh, wonderful, and you have wonderful beaches, and then the sunset in Finisterre is wonderful. It's beautiful. And there's a lot of very wonderful seafood in the area of Corcubion, as well as the area of Finisterre. There's a lot of very good meat on the area of Lires, Muxía as well. A lot of is at the sea. It's very nice with fish and everything. You can find a lot of things on each Camino. Then we have here two Caminos, which we had here on to discuss a bit and to tell a bit. One is not a Camino de Santiago, but it is made by a religious person, which was a priest, the Father Sarmiento, who did in the 18th century, who walked from Pontevedra till Santiago de Compostela, but along the coast. That means in Sanxenxo, Cambados, the Ogrova Island, Villanova de Arousa, and then he entered in Padrón, because Padrón is a very, very important place for the pilgrims, and he did the last stage, which is now considered the Camino Portugués, no? The Camino Portugués. This is not an official. It's a very nice hiking route, and you will have wonderful places with wonderful gastronomy. The winery of Albariño and the Rías Baixas, the wine capital of Galicia, which is called Cambados, wonderful. But this is a Camino which you get a special credential, and you get a special certificate from the area of Rías Baixas, but you will not gain the Compostela like when you do other Caminos de Santiago. And then we have as well one very, very wonderful route to walk, which is the lighthouse walk, the Camino de los Faros, which is more or less 200 kilometers, where you start in the north part of Galicia, which is Malpica, and you border the Costa da Morte, which is called the Dead Coast. Why Dead Coast? Because there's so much turbulence on these places with the Atlantic Ocean against the cliffs that many boats and many ships did not made it and went down, and that's why many sailors and people since many years ago died in this area. That's why there's a lot of lighthouses to beware all the ships and the boats. And this one is called Camino de los Faros because you walk along the Dead Coast from Malpica till Finisterre, from one lighthouse to another lighthouse. And as well, the area of Lasche, the beaches, Camariñas, the food, Muxía, Ponteceso, Malpica, this well wonderful place to eat fish and everything. This is so special. Now we have a couple of Germans doing this Camino, and suddenly they found it's very hard because today is very windy, and when it's windy, it's a Camino which can be very dangerous. This is what I consider that you can only do it if you are very good in hiking. If you just come for the first time of hiking, this is not a Camino for you. This is more or less a little flash points for each of the Camino which you can walk. And any questions are welcome.
It's like being back in university, getting a lecture of all the details. This was great, Miguel. I had one question, and it's the question I'm asked most often when I talk to people and they know what I do. They always say, what's the best Camino I should do for my first one? And I always struggle answering this question because the Camino is such a personal thing. But when you meet somebody who, they want to do their first Camino, what are some of the options you consider as being the best to recommend?
First of all, I will ask you that you struggle, and I ask you, what do you think is the best Camino for you?
For me? So I don't live near the water, so I'm a sucker for anything that gets me by the water. So
you see,
the coastal Portuguese is just so special to walk by the water.
Yes,
but for people that live by the water, they probably wouldn't be as amazed as I would. But to jump in the ocean, if it's a hot day, that's really special.
This is the right answer. That means when I first of all I asked them, what do you want to see, or what do you want to feel on the Camino de Santiago? Do you want to walk with a lot of people and make friends? Do you want to have the sea on your side? You love the nature, the food. You want to walk with less people. Then they give you for example, as many Galicians and many people of Asturias went overseas to Argentina, Uruguay, Mexico, because in Spain, in this time of the 100 years ago, there was not a lot of job work. That means there's a lot of South American, they're coming because they have roots of Galicia or Asturias, and they want to do the Camino de Santiago, and if they're lucky, to cross maybe the village where the grandfather was living. And for sure, they will do it because nearly every point of Galicia is part of the Camino de Santiago, nearly. And that's then the reason for them, the best Camino for them is this Camino. But when I ask the people, and after asking them all these questions, and they answering me, I ask them how they are physically. They walk daily, or just they want to do it just now for fun. And the Camino, the best Camino for being the first Camino is always the Camino Portugués and the Camino Francés. Why? It's very easy. Because you have many places between the stages where you can stop and rest and have something to eat and something to drink. If you do the Camino del Norte or you do the Camino Primitivo, you will find stages where you have maybe many kilometers, like 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, where there's nothing. And this is not good for being a first time, because then if you feel tired, you feel dizzy, you need something, you need a help, you will maybe not get it. And that's and I always consider that if you want to do a second Camino, wonderful, but do the first one a bit easier. Do it in a place where you know other pilgrims are walking with you if you need help, or you're crossing a lot of villages where you can, after every 2, 3, 4, 5 kilometers, you can stop, you can take off your boots, you can rest, you can have a beer, a water, a wine, you can have a sandwich, a piece of bread, a soup. That's why I always, that's why the Camino Frances is as well so high in numbers, because most of the best infrastructure are on the Camino Frances and the Camino Portugues. If you think, nearly 80% of the pilgrims who do the Camino de Santiago are on these two routes, Frances and Portugues. And the rest of the 20% are doing all the other routes. And that's as well. But my favorite Camino is Camino Primitivo. That's my top Camino, because I look for something different on the Camino. I look for being a bit more alone, not being so much around with many pilgrims, to have more time for myself. And as I walk always in winter, where in this Caminos there does not exist this wonderful service for the luggages. That means I have to carry my backpack. That means I put a lot of water and something to eat, and I don't mind to stop in the middle of the forest and have something to eat there, because I enjoy the spot. But as a first Camino, I think the best part of a first Camino is doing all the Camino Portugues or the Camino Frances. You have a week or 2 weeks. You can do it from Ponferrada or León. If you have a month, you can do it from Roncesvalles. If you have more time and you want to enjoy the Camino, you can do it in 50, 60 days. And after each 5 days, you can put some extra rest days to visit the wonderful cities like Logroño, Burgos, Pamplona, León, Ponferrada, Villafranca del Bierzo. Or you do the Camino Portugues and start in Porto or start in Coimbra. And it's wonderful, because you will enjoy the Camino, but as well you will have the facilities of services around you. That's as well important for many people who are coming and not knowing Spain and not knowing the Spanish language. That's important.
Yeah, I know for all of us from North America, we're used to walking in the mountains where you carry everything on your back and there's nothing there. And the nice thing is, I'm a little bit peckish, let's stop and have a great coffee, or let's go and get a glass of wine, or let's have some snacks. And that can happen every hour or two. You can find that place. I think that's what makes it real special. When people ask about the best time of the year with all these different variants, and at 10 Adventures, we've started getting a lot of people wanting to do a Camino over New Year's, or do it in the middle of winter. That's the only time they can get away, or they want to do it in the height of summer. How would you frame the challenges of the different months of the year to do these Caminos?
This is again a question like I answer with another question. What do you want to see at the Camino? What do you want to feel at the Camino? Okay. It's a very big challenge if you do it in winter and if you do it in summer. Because first of all, summer, it's crowded and hot. And winter, it's very cold, rainy, snowy, and empty. Empty means not of pilgrims. That means because there are no pilgrims, many of the restaurants, bars, or accommodations are closed. That means it makes your Camino as well. Even the climate, it makes your Camino difficult, and the non-services makes it a bit more difficult. Of course, you can walk the Camino. You can walk 12 months a year. You can walk any of the Caminos during the whole year. The only thing is that in the winter time, maybe your stages are getting longer, because you have to walk more to reach a place where you can have an overnight. You have to carry a bit more because you need something to drink and to eat. And the summer, for me, I always talk in the first person. It's the time I would never do a Camino, because it's too hot for me. But I know I love the winter and I love the being cold. But I know there's many people, they love to be with 35 degrees, having sunbath on the beach, and I cannot resist it for me. But other people, yes. And there's many people who likes to do the Camino with a lot of people around, to make friends, they come a lot, because there's many people coming alone on the Camino. And like this, suddenly they end with a team of 5 or 6 or 10 and having wonderful friendship for life. And I consider the best time for do the Camino de Santiago, with all the services open, is spring and autumn. For me, the best time. For me, already middle of March, April, May, June, September, October, the first 15 days, 20 days of November. These are wonderful time for do the Camino. Any of the Caminos.
And for people that are, trying to think, what's it like walking a Camino? Can you maybe just start with, I think one thing that surprises people is the types of paths that you walk on. It's not always a trail in the woods, again, like we're used to here in North America. What's it like for the paths people will be walking most days?
It's very different. Many people, I know this because I meet a lot of pilgrims when they come to Santiago, and they tell me, oh, there was a lot of asphalt, or oh, it was a lot of this, or a lot of that. This is something we cannot avoid. This is I don't like it too, but that's why as well the Camino is so difficult and makes people, even if you are a sportman, makes you feeling hard for you, because you are walking in one day on so different kind of path, which makes your legs and your feet getting heavy as well, because you have the asphalt. When it's hot, the asphalt is getting hot and your feet is boiling. You have suddenly the wood trails with stones, with wood. Then you have maybe sand. It's so different. But many people are asking me, please find me a Camino which is no asphalt. It doesn't exist, unfortunately. The Camino Portugués para Costa, you walk on a beach walk, on a wooden walk next to they made it very nice, very new a couple of years ago, the government of Portugal, and you're walking on the side of the beach on a wooden trail. It's nice, yes, but there's very different kind of path, yeah, and that makes it sometimes a bit hard. The Camino Inglés has a lot of asphalt as well, and I did the last time I did the Camino Inglés. That's a nice story. The last time I did the Camino Inglés, it was in the winter, but suddenly it was so hot because the climate in Galicia changed so fast, and suddenly you think it will rain, and the next day you have 18, 20 degrees. And suddenly the climate changed so much, and I had my big boots for water and for cold weather, and I had in my backpack, I had some Crocs, this normal plastic shoes. And after the first day, my feet was so hot because of walking so much on the asphalt, and it was hot, that I took my boots off. I think it was the last 105 kilometers, and I did the last 105 kilometers walking into Santiago de Compostela, the complete 105 kilometers with my Crocs and some socks and my shorts. And people were looking at me. I said, "Well, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm doing the Camino." I said, "No, you look like a freaky tourist on the beach of Ibiza." I said, "No, I'm doing the Camino," and it was very comfortable. The Crocs. I found out they were very comfortable, and after this, I did other Caminos with my Crocs.
Oh, wow.
Wonderful, wonderful. The only thing of the Crocs is they have holes, and suddenly you walk and some stones are getting in, and it is a bit not nice. But this different kind of path, and the most not nice and not like path is that when you have to walk so much on asphalt.
I've never heard anyone doing a Camino in Crocs. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are now one.
Pink ones. Pink Crocs. Pink Crocs. I posted on Instagram, and I put at Crocs that maybe the company talked with me, and I had to make a bit of publicity, but nobody answered me. Never. They said he is crazy.
Can you talk a little bit about the accommodations? Because I think what makes the Camino interesting is there is such a wide variety,
Right.
and this often confuses people when they're doing their first Camino.
The first thing we have to tell the pilgrims is that they had to get away all other holidays they did to compare it with the Camino de Santiago, because many of them are writing and telling you, "I want to do the Camino de Santiago in 4 and 5-star hotels." Does not exist. It does not exist, and good it does not exist, because that makes the Camino special. Because you are walking one day and you sleep in a wonderful hostel, which is owned by a family. Then the next day you sleep in a land house, which is in the middle of the nothing, wonderful with a stone house with the cows outside. Then suddenly you reach a town which is a bit bigger, and you have a variety of a 1-star hotel, 2-star hotel, 3-star hotel, with a spa service, with a wellness, with a restaurant, and that is what it makes special, because as every day is different, because every stage is different, every nature is different, every path is different, every pilgrims you meet is the same from the last day, but as well new ones. And that happens as well with accommodations. They're all different. And you have a plenty variety. You have wonderful little pensions, you have little boutique accommodations, you have hotels, you have hostels, you have land houses, or you have the shelters, which is the albergues, which can be private or public, where you share your room with other pilgrims. And you have a shower, or 2 or 3 or 4 showers for maybe 20, 30 people, and you have bedrooms of 6, of 8, of 20, of 100, and you have the option to take other type of accommodation where you have your private room with your private bathroom, and even every breakfast is different. That makes it nice as well, because in every area suddenly you get this cake, or you get this bread, or you get this cheese, or you get this orange, and the coffee tastes very bad here, and maybe even worse in the other place. And then you say, "No, I don't want to have more coffee. I want to get tea." Or then suddenly you find a place where you have a wonderful coffee. It makes the Camino so different. Even if you don't like one place, you will not think about it in the end of the Camino in a negative way. You will think it was something what happened, and this one was maybe a bit smaller or a bit less services, but it's wonderful that the Camino offers you such a different type of accommodations. You can always, of course, there's always people who ask, "I want to do the Camino in an upgrade accommodations." We consider upgrade accommodations maybe some very, very nice and big land houses, which is called pathos, which are maybe from the 17th, 18th century. But most of them are always situated a bit more outside the stage. Of course, you can include a taxi and a transfer, or even sometimes the owner will pick you up and drive you to the house. And then you will have a bit more luxury, another standard. And of course, when you are in the big cities, then you can as well upgrade, like for example in León with the wonderful Parador San Marcos, or in Burgos, or in Santiago, the Parador of Santiago, or the Hotel Monumento San Francisco. In Villafranca del Bierzo, there's as well a Parador. There is places where you can really say, because some people ask me, I want to upgrade every place. No, upgrade every place, it's impossible, because sometimes it's not possible. But I always tell them, forget about the stars, because some accommodation on the Camino, which are maybe a simple pension, is even better than any 4- or 5-star hotel you are sleeping in whatever country you have visited, because not of the accommodation on the size of the room or the size of the bed. The owner is there, the lady or the man, the owner. They welcome you with a wonderful smile. You see them in the check-in. They prepare the breakfast for you. They're always there. This makes the accommodation special, the people who are behind the accommodation. And this is something you will remember in your memory. I always tell the people, the memory of a human being is very short. If you start a Camino de Santiago in Roncesvalles and you finish in Santiago, and you slept in a bad place in Zubiri or in Nájera, you will not remember when you're in Santiago. You will think about the good things would happen on the Camino. And this is more than the bad things. That's why. But accommodation, there are plenty variety, and for any people and any taste.
It's been great to hear all your knowledge, Miguel. I want to say thanks for coming on the show and taking the time to share all this. I'm sure there's so many listeners that are going to be able to use this to plan their next trip.
I hope and I wish that it would, because I honestly, for everybody who is listening this podcast and for you as well, I wrote many things down which in the end I didn't say, because suddenly I start talking, and I start most of the time talking of my own experience, and I have this emotion which I want to transmit to other people doing the Camino, and I wrote many things down, which suddenly was a lot of numbers and people of how many different nationalities and how many people are doing the Camino Frances. In the end, this is only numbers. In the end, the Camino de Santiago is something very personal, and I believe in it, and I know it, and you can ask many people who did the Camino de Santiago. Once you do the Camino de Santiago, you want to repeat, yes or yes, even if it takes you 20 years to repeat, but you want to come back, because what you gain on the Camino de Santiago is such wonderful experience, which is something which will be in your memory for your lifetime.
Excellent. You said it perfectly there, Miguel. You can find all the tours we talked about on 10 Adventures, and I'll put links to them in the show notes. And thanks to all of you for listening to this episode. If you like this episode, please give us a like or a comment on whatever podcast player you use. And with that, we'll be back next week to explore the world and hear about more epic adventures. Start planning your own adventure by visiting us at 10adventures.com and listen to other episodes of the 10 Adventures podcast on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else you find your podcasts.